so much, Susheel, for taking the time out. Thank you for coming to our office. And I know you're a very busy man, so really, really appreciate you
Well,
taking the
thank
time
you,
out.
Sameer. Thanks for the opportunity, and I really want to thank LinkedIn for the opportunity as well. So I look forward to the conversation.
Sure. So, we'll start with a brief introduction. And at LinkedIn, um, we have this almost ritual of doing introductions in a certain way. So let me ask you, what you do and one thing that's not on your LinkedIn profile.
So I knew that getting into this interview, you would come up with a question that is going to be interesting to start with. So, firstly, I think LinkedIn is such a platform that there is very little secrets that you can hide from it.
Mm-hmm.
The good part is you can write whatever you want on your profile and as your achievements, but the network really shines the light on what reality is. So that's the beauty of the platform.
Thank you.
So having said that, my name is Susheel Ladwa. I'm based out of Dallas. I'm the CEO of Americas for Litmus7, and Litmus7 is a company that is 100% focused on redefining the retail industry.
Mhm.
That's what we do, and that is what we will do as our strategy as well. In terms of things that are not on my LinkedIn profile, the only thing that I can think about is, I have a lot of passion for three individuals that have great brains that have influenced the history, and those are Chanakya from
Mhm.
Arthashastra, the guy who wrote
Yeah.
Arthashastra, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and lastly Machiavelli for The Prince. So I always try to find ways to understand how they used to think and see how I can apply it in today's business.
That's amazing, and I have to ask you, why haven't you put that in your LinkedIn profile? Because that's so amazing. Like typically we don't put stuff which we feel is not so relevant, but I can visualize you writing an amazing post on LinkedIn, just linking some of the learnings from these great people into, something that the youth of today could benefit from.
You know what? I never thought about it. So now you said that, maybe that's something I need to think on my long plane ride back to the US. So
Awesome.
thanks for kindling that spirit in me to do something different.
So Susheel, you worked with really large companies. You worked with Wipro, you worked with HP, you worked with IBM, and Litmus7. So what made that happen?
It's a very good question, Sameer. So if you look at the IT industry today, I think the overall IT industry is at an inflection point. Traditionally, companies like Wipro, where I worked, they led the way in terms of a new delivery model that used talent globally. And then there was a huge catch up from companies like HP and IBM. But what happened in the entire transition of this is the employees, they became an employee number.
Sure.
And the opportunities for them was they could do development, they could do support kind of work, a little bit of innovation for a long time to come. But talking to Venu, the founder of Litmus7, I really liked his way of thinking. It was different. And why it was different was we did not want to build another IT services company. What we really wanted to build was Litmus7 as an incubation center where people come in, they find themselves, they are able to find ideas that they want to execute, take those ideas and become entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And while doing that, make Litmus7 a place where they can find happiness.
That's interesting.
And while they do all of that, if you look at what happens in that cycle, you create multiple intellectual properties because you have people coming up with ideas, implementing those ideas. So what does it mean to the company? In terms of the company, we are no longer a traditional IT services company. We are a IT company that is actually having intellectual property driven way of delivery. That is high value for the clients. So we really wanted to build this incubation center where people come, they create something new, they become entrepreneurs, they find happiness, and they find success.
And you've been in this role as the CEO for Americas for 6 months now.
Yes.
So how's your experience been? Have you really been living, those dreams, those values, that sense of purpose that you thought you were joining in for?
So, in the past 6 months, what I have found is Litmus7 is a place where non-traditional thinking is the modus operandi.
Mm-hmm.
We have not done anything that is traditional. We have a weirdness to the way we do things. And
Weirdness?
Yes.
That's interesting.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a weirdness to the way we do things. Anything. So
Okay.
let me cite you some examples.
Mm.
So everybody talks about innovation, right? But for a company of our size, we actually went way beyond what we could potentially do within our means. We have an incubation center in Israel, and our chief innovation officer actually sits out of Israel. And we have a team in Israel that is the frontline innovation incubation center. And then we have set up similar centers out of India as well as San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
So that creates a very global chain of innovation, right?
Right.
Unheard of in specific to an industry like retail. That's all our focus is.
Sure.
Two, if you look at HR, we have gotten rid of all appraisal systems. There is no appraisal system because we want to run the company as clubs. Every small unit is a club. The club decides who's going to be the president, who's going to be the treasurer, who's going to be the secretary. And the club has a charter, the club runs it, the club owns it. So
Right.
it is a self-sustaining, self-cleansing system wherein the performers really get elevated and the not so great performers get eventually weeded out, right?
Right.
So it is a system that we have created which is not running because there is oversight. It is running because people in it are motivated to make it happen.
Now that you sort of settled into your role, what are your top priorities for, let's say, the next 12 months? Your top 3 priorities, maybe.
The first top priority is essentially create leaders. Create leaders that can solve problems, deliver on results. Typically in companies what happens is you have leadership but they essentially bubble issues up, right? How do you create a self-sustaining structure where every leader takes care of what needs to happen and they deliver results?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one part of it. So once you have the leadership aligned, then it's a matter of accountability, driving thorough accountability, giving clear and precise quantifiable value in terms of what needs to be delivered and be able to drive that. And if we get both of these two right, growth and happiness and innovation follows. So those are the 3 top priorities, not in specific order,
Sure.
but each one plays a different role. But for now, it is all about creating leaders, creating the entrepreneurs of the future that will incubate out of Litmus7.
One of the values that you have is around accountability.
Yep.
And accountability, is interesting because, to different people, accountability, the manifestation of accountability can be different. So what's your take on accountability? So how do you set the standard for accountability yourself? And what is it that you expect out of your people?
Taking a vision and creating it into reality.
Hmm.
What happens in between is the accountability to make it happen. Right? So you're right, it plays a big role in it. So our approach to accountability has been the mantra of results or reasons.
Okay.
I'll repeat, it's results or reasons. So every leader here is tasked with specific results that they need to deliver. So there will be 100 reasons why the result can be attained. But if they can find 5 ways by which they can still deliver the results, that's the aspect of a true leader. And that's the culture that we are building within the organization. Okay. And it all starts with step 1, setting very precise, clear, and quantifiable numeric goals.
Sure.
Right? Otherwise, qualitative goals usually go away. So we just spent a lot of time off-site by function to figure out exactly what those goals are. They are very, very precise, very, very metrics driven. So once those goals are out there, then it's a matter of communicating it to all the teams so that everybody is on board. It's all hands on the deck, make it happen. Right? So once it is all hands make it happen, then it essentially drives results. And as we drive results, if there are issues that come up, we will manage it. But the fact that we have a guidepost as to what exactly is the metric and what we really need to deliver on, that clarity essentially breeds a huge amount of behavioral differences between us and any other company. Everybody ground up is aligned.
Sure.
And that alignment is what I think will lead to our significant growth.
Accountability sometimes is a little more than what can be stated, right? So for example, at LinkedIn, we have this value which is similar, but it's like act like an owner. So the buck stops with you, right? And not everything can be written down, not everything can be quantified maybe. Because, if you feel like an owner of a company, then you sort of do that a little bit more and, beyond what's probably written. And I'm sure you bring about that culture at Litmus7 as well. So beyond metrics, how do you sort of bring this about?
Accountability and metrics can only take you so far.
Right.
It's the personal drive to actually deliver on that makes the difference. You can only push so much. Beyond that, it is the individual or a group's intent to make that happen. Right? How do you drive that motivation for them to make it happen?
Right.
So maybe I'll cite a very simple example to you to make it. So I had a client visit that I was managing, and it was a very simple task. We had to just order refreshments for that meeting. That's what.
Okay.
So in walks a very young guy, very young chap, and he says, "You know what? I'm not going to ask you any questions on what you want. I'll tell you what I have done. You tell me if this is okay." I said, "Okay, what is it?" He said, "I counted that there are 12 chairs in the conference room, so I have budgeted for 15 people. I assume that at least 50 to 60% of them are coffee drinkers, so I've made a mix of coffee plus this. And I know there are some allergies, nut allergies that we have had in the past, so I have a separate platter of cookies that are nut free." Okay. And then as far as serving it, I've already looked at the calendar. It says it's a 2-hour meeting. So after 15 minutes, when you're done with the intros, that's when we serve. And 15 minutes before you wrap up, that's when we clean up. Is that okay? And I was completely blown away by that experience, because here comes somebody who has total ownership and accountability of delivering the end experience. And they've done all the legwork to make it happen. Right? So that example is so imbibed in my mind, and that I think is the way accountability can be really driven. Right?
Sure.
Wherein every individual has that personal sense of ownership to take on their particular area and deliver it like the way this individual did. So that's my aspiration, to kind of drive that kind of leadership. I think we have the right leaders, we have the right intent, and we have some of the greatest people that are out there in the retail space, period. And every client that we work with, we are number one in credibility. So given all this, I'm very confident that we'll drive significant accountability, which is already exists, and will set an example on how accountability is driven in an organization.
Before I let you go, I have this final question for you, and I think I'm just taking some cues from what you said about accountability and the sense of ownership. At LinkedIn, we've been sort of engaging with your company for quite some time now, and we're helping you out in the talent management space. So how's your experience been, or what sort of exposures you've had with us, and any advice you have for us?
Firstly, I would say there is not a day where I don't log into LinkedIn. So you guys actually make my day every morning. So I thank you for that. As far as LinkedIn as a strategic platform for our growth, as well as growth both from an employee acquisition as well as client standpoint, it plays a significant role for us. It is pivotal to our strategy. So we've been very happy with the relationship that you have, and obviously the support that Sameer, you and your team provide to us, it's phenomenal. You guys have been great to work with. So the way we look at LinkedIn is essentially focusing on acquiring the right talent. So that's one part of it. And it helps us network with the right people, give them the right opportunities, and evaluate and see if they are the kind of entrepreneurs that we want in our system. Right?
Sure.
So that is one part of it. And clearly from a business development, new client acquisition standpoint, most of our connects today, of course, we have a lot of deep relationships, but LinkedIn plays a big role. So I would say from a sales standpoint, I think LinkedIn is an under-tapped, huge asset, and we hope to tap it to the best extent that we can. Lastly, there is a content piece of it which puts out thought leadership.
Right.
So if you look at our strategy is all about defining retail singularity, which is the future of retail. How will we define it? How will we get that word out? The only way we can do it is with this partnership, so that we can put the right content out there in front of the right people that can make those decisions to move the needle. So you folks have a significant role that you are playing in the future of every industry. So I really applaud the work that your team does, and the platform is great. We are fans of your platform.
So thank you very much for your kind words, and thank you for your time. We look forward to a sustained engagement, and look forward to continuing partnering with you and your team to ensure that we're all successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sameer. Thanks for the opportunity, and go LinkedIn and go Litmus7.